Attack on Titan has some great action sequences, and yes, it's been fun to witness gigantic biomechas fighting each other, but few things have been as hype as watching the Ackermans absolutely slaughter their opponents in battle, humans and Titans alike. Mikasa Ackerman and Levi Ackerman have proven time and time again that when they have to fight a Titan, they are the predator, and the Titans are their prey. And that too in a world where Titans are made to prey on humans. While everyone else has their freedom taken away by these monsters, the Ackermans turn the tables on the heads of the Titans to show them who the real monsters are. In today's video, we'll talk about why and how the Ackermans are so strong and why their strength is so crucial for the story of Attack on Titan to progress. Are Ackermans human beings? How were they created using Titan science? The Ackerman clan used to be a family of Eldians who were part of the Eldian Empire since long before Karl Fritz's vow of peace and the subsequent creation of the walls. During this time, the Eldian Empire was no stranger to dabbling in Titan science, as they experimented with the power of Titans. These continued experiments accidentally led to the creation of a bloodline where each individual could call forth immense powers without actually turning into Titans. This bloodline, the Ackerman clan, had gained the ability to tap into the power of a Titan, which made them far superior in comparison to the average human. As a result, they were tasked with protecting the Eldian king across the generations, making them the right hand of the monarch. For the longest time, Eldians subjected the world beyond their empire to their ruthlessness and tyranny. After they had the world in their grasp, the Great Titan War between the Eldian noble houses began. Because it was a civil war among the 8 noble houses that were subservient to the royal family, added security was quite possibly required for the Fritz family. This security, of course, came in the form of the Ackermans, and although we don't know what actions were taken back in the day, it's safe to assume that the Ackerman clan would help stabilize things here and there by following the orders of the royal family. This would generally come in the form of assassinations and maybe taking out pure Titans. Because they were entrusted with the survival of the people, it was necessary for the clan to curb any nuisance that would threaten the lives of the subjects of Ymir. But it is highly possible that they mostly had to take care of the crown's human enemies, considering how they had been created and utilized before the Titan War even began. Overall, having super soldiers was beneficial because there were several things that needed human involvement and could not be carried out by a gigantic Titan shifter. The Ackermans could do more specific and dangerous jobs without the risk of the enemy getting their hands on someone whose powers they could steal by eating them, provided the enemy was a subject of Ymir. The huge size that's part of being a Titan shifter also made it hard to pull off more stealth-centric missions, which must have been necessary to keep an empire afloat. Being a standard good soldier would make victory sparser, although not impossible. It would require every single soldier to be extremely well-trained, intelligent, and capable. With the Ackermans, however, the royal family was getting access to a group of people who were genetically designed to be substantially better and stronger than the average brilliant soldier. What makes the Ackermans the strongest and most versatile fighters in the series? Ackermans are essentially humans with the power of the Titans, since they are the products of Titan science. They have access to superhuman strength, speed, agility, durability, and resilience. This is made evidently clear from the beginning of the series, with Mikasa being portrayed as a very strong girl from a very young age. When Armin would get bullied, Eren would charge at the bullies with his headstrong personality, but he would barely be able to hold against them by himself. Meanwhile, Mikasa would come to the rescue and miraculously take out everyone with ease. When Eren would resist her, she would simply pick him up and take him back home. When they gathered wood for the family, Mikasa always gathered a lot more wood than Eren because she had the strength to carry a much heavier load than him. Next, the trio of Eren, Mikasa, and Armin went on to train and become soldiers. During their military training, Mikasa's physical performance was always immaculate, with her being the best cadet in their program. She was inherently much better than her peers, which made Eren very jealous of her as he wanted to be the strongest. We now know that he also wanted to protect Mikasa, which was hard for him, considering the tables always turned on him with Mikasa having to protect him instead. In fact, she had promised his mother that she would look after him, and eventually joined the Survey Corps because Eren did, since she believed that with his personality, he would send himself to an early grave without her at his back. We soon get introduced to Levi Ackerman, who was not confirmed to be an Ackerman at that point. In fact, we had no clue about why Levi and Mikasa were so strong. However, they killed pure titans with minimal effort while the other soldiers struggled with their lives. Their speed and the sheer amount of force they could use were incomparable. Levi was said to be as strong as an entire brigade. Mikasa, at the age of 15, was said to be as strong as 100 competent soldiers. And these extreme claims were evidently correct based on how well they fought. During the return to Shiganshina arc, we saw how Mikasa was much more capable of carrying several thunder spears at once, had perfect aim with them, and was quite resilient to those explosions. At one point, she physically stood inside the armored titan Reiner's mouth and shot the thunder spear at point-blank range to bring him out of his nape. A non-Ackerman wouldn't have been able to withstand the impact of the explosion. In the previous season, her ribs had been crushed by a titan while she tried to save Eren, but she was surprisingly capable of working out within 2 weeks, which shocked everyone. However, it was only possible because, as an Ackerman, Mikasa had a greater durability and healed faster, although Ackermans cannot heal as fast as Titan shifters. After Levi had planted Zeke with a thunder spear, Zeke moved frantically to make it explode, hoping to take out himself and Levi in the process. While Zeke was rescued in the paths by Ymir Fritz, since he was royalty, Levi should have died from that explosion. Yet, he managed to survive after losing only a single eye and 2 fingers. Because humans are smaller in size, they also have an advantage over the Titans, who can be targeted easily. The Ackermans are amazing at using 3D maneuvering gear and the ODM gear. This allows them to take out several Titans without breaking a sweat. Although Mikasa was not as capable of keeping up with the female Titan as Levi, by the second half of Season 3, she was more than seasoned enough to go against Titan shifters. In Season 4, she would have easily taken out the Warhammer Titan had it not been for the latter's crystallized shell. Meanwhile, she toyed with the Jaw Titan in the first part of the season and took out several Jaegerists with ease in the second part. Overall, both Levi and Mikasa are extremely capable against humans, pure Titans, and of course, Titan shifters. They can even go against opponents with guns while wielding swords and emerge victorious. We have seen Mikasa be exemplary with hand-to-hand combat and tactical fighting styles as well. All in all, it's interesting to see how the Ackermans were initially used to protect an empire that utilized Titans, only for them to become the most potent toxin against those very Titans. Why is the Ackerman clan feared by the Eldian royalty? Is it related to their anatomy? Following the relocation of most Eldians to Paradise Island, the Ackerman clan also shifted to the island within the walls, as they had to stay by the royal family's side. However, the king went on to use the power of the founding titan to wipe out the memories of Ymir's descendants, making them forget about the outside world. This was done to ensure continued peace both in and out of the walls. Such an act would lead to other countries, specifically Marley, not attacking Paradise Island, especially with the threat of the rumbling looming over their head. This was also an accurate move to an extent, considering how Marley never attacked Paradise beyond sending Titan bodies outside the walls until the founding Titan fell into the hands of the Jaegers. However, the very idea of peace that required a total wipeout of people's memories about their history was pretty messed up. Interestingly, this very ability didn't work on the Ackerman clan, the Asian clan, and the other noble families who retained their memories of the outside world. Alongside the Asian clan, the Ackermans rejected the king's idea of peace and went from being their right hand to turning their backs on the monarchy. This brought forth a state-sanctioned extermination of the bloodline, where the royal family relentlessly persecuted the clan of super soldiers. While the Ackermans were extremely powerful, not everyone had tapped into the power of the Titans. As a result, there was not much they could do against their new enemies. In a way, the Ackermans were somewhat similar to Aramakisho from Tokyo Ghoul. He was the most dangerous investigator in the CCG, but we later learned that he was a failed half-ghoul. Those whose bodies had failed to become ghouls despite experimentation gained tremendous physical abilities at the cost of having their lifespans shortened. Similarly, the members of the Ackerman clan were genetically predisposed to acquiring superhuman abilities, but in their case, they didn't have to pay for it with a shortened lifespan. This made them even more dangerous. Combined with their mind being immune to manipulation and their desire to stand against the monarchy's pacifist worldviews and ideals of a false peace, case, the Ackermans were the greatest threat to the royal family. If the clan were to rebel against the crown and attack them, there wasn't much the royal family could do against them. For starters, most of the Titan shifters, except the founding Titan, had fallen into the hands of Marley. Due to Karl Fritz's anti-war vow, the wielder of the founder, who had to be of royal blood, also lost access to the founder's true power. This meant that if the Ackermans went against them, the royal family would be taken out with relative ease. Sometime during the events of Attack on Titan, Levi's uncle Kenny Ackerman asked his grandfather about why the crown hated the Ackermans so much. To this, his grandfather replied that it was not hatred, but rather how much they feared the bloodline that led to them exterminating its people, because the monarchy did not have the power to control the Ackermans. Throughout the show, we see how humiliated the people within the walls are made to feel in the face of a greater threat. We see how they are slaves to their misery, confined within the walls because they will get destroyed if they seek freedom. The royal family bears the same fate, with them being slaves to the will of Karl Fritz, taking away their ability to gain access to the true power of the founder. We see how the subjects of Ymir themselves are slaves to the royal family, who can play with their memories. In a world where no one has freedom, the Ackermans seem to be free. Naturally, this makes them a huge threat, especially when they refuse to ally themselves with certain ideologies. The persecution of the clan eventually ended when the head of the Ackerman clan offered his life and allowed himself to be executed. Following this, the Ackermans avoided telling their future generations the truth about the world, as well as the truth behind their lineage. And yet, the oppression didn't exactly stop, even when the newer Ackermans did not know why the monarchy wanted them dead. This continued for generations, and eventually, some Ackerman families fled to live by the mountains at the edge of the walls, while others relocated to an underground city where they lived as refugees. With this new lifestyle, they also lived with limited financial means, especially with others ruining the Ackerman-run businesses. But why were they immune to the mind manipulation of the founder? At some point, Kenny's grandfather believed that Ackermans were not exactly subjects of Ymir. For starters, the terms Eldians and subjects of Ymir are used interchangeably, but that doesn't mean that it is an interchangeable term. All subjects of Ymir are Eldians, but not all Eldians are subjects of Ymir. The latter came into existence with time, as Ymir started having more and more descendants and passed down the power of the Titans, gaining access to all of her descendants via the paths, with her acting as the coordinate. However, Eldians existed even before Ymir. What Kenny's grandfather probably alluded to was that Ackermans were Eldians, but they were not subjects of Ymir, which made them capable of reacting to Titan science without turning into Titans. We now know that this isn't true, since Eren was able to tap into the minds of Mikasa and Levi alongside the other Eldians when he gained the power of the founder and addressed everyone via the paths. Because all the present-day Eldians in general are subjects of Ymir, the two phrases have also become synonymous with one another. The purge of the clan eventually ended when King Uri Dryas met Kenny Ackerman, who had been trying to assassinate the king due to the monarchy's tyranny on the Ackermans. Uri bowed to Kenny and apologized for the mistakes of the prior monarchs. He also stopped the persecution of the clan once and for all, following which Kenny became his right-hand man. How does the Ackerman clan's awakening ability work? Can an external host control it? Ackermans are not born with their superhuman abilities acting themselves out in full swing. It's a power that lies dormant and has to be awakened. In a way, it's very similar to the Sharingan. Uchihas are not born with the Sharingan, but at some point in their lives, some of them awaken this power. The method of awakening is also somewhat similar, but not entirely. An Uchiha gets the Sharingan when they experience extreme pain born from love. The eye can be awoken as the result of the death of a friend or family member, the betrayal of a loved one, pain felt from having to part with someone close, pain felt from missing a parent, and the list goes on. In short, however, it is a power born from a type of pain that is caused by strong feelings of love. In the case of an Ackerman, the person has to be in an extreme do-or-die situation, a type of fight or flight where the body innately chooses to fight. This gives the host access to these dormant powers they otherwise didn't have before. Mikasa Ackerman is the only character whose awakening is explicitly shown in the story. When she was 9 years old, she witnessed both of her parents being killed by human traffickers because they wanted to sell her mother, who was from the Asian clan. Because there were barely any people from the Asian race within Paradise Island, a woman from a rare and exotic race was highly sought after in the trafficking market. However, they weren't supposed to kill Mikasa's mother as they needed her alive. They only had to because of how much she was resisting. Because their main target had been accidentally taken out, out, they abducted Mikasa, who was of mixed blood. She was saved by Eren, as Grisha used to be well acquainted with the Ackermans and also acted as their family doctor. After learning about the situation, Eren single-handedly tried to save Mikasa and ambushed her abductors at the place where she was being held. He killed 2 of them with a knife without knowing that there was a third. Soon after, the third trafficker caught Eren by the throat and made him lose his knife. Meanwhile, a bewildered Mikasa stood on standby while Eren was on the verge of death. At that very moment, Eren asked Mikasa to fight back because if she didn't, they would die. But if she did, she could continue living. A flurry of imagery flooded Mikasa's mind. She envisioned moments from her daily life where she would witness a praying mantis catching and eating a butterfly, or her father holding a turkey by its throat after killing it to feed the family. This was symbolic of predation in a world where the strong survived over the weak, in a world where the strong subdued the weak for its continued survival. Both the mantis and Mikasa's family needed to eat for their survival. They didn't kill the butterfly or the turkey for sport. They did it to live, and Mikasa had to do the same. That's why she referred to the world as cruel but beautiful. Eren asking her to fight back, combined with her personal experiences, led to Mikasa, whose arms were shaking as she held the knife, acquiring the will to fight. This generated a reaction in her brain, which was visualized by streaks of yellow lightning running across her brain and body, similar to how streaks of yellow lightning are formed when a Titan shifter transforms. Following this, Mikasa suddenly gained an absurd amount of strength, which allowed her to crack the floorboards and damage the hilt of the knife with sheer force. After this, she rammed the knife into the trafficker from the back, taking out his heart with a single blow. This incident was Mikasa's awakening of her Ackerman powers, or the Ackerman instinct. 2 things happen when an Ackerman awakens their powers. The first, obvious one, is their ability to tap into the power of the Titans, which essentially makes them a Titan in human form. The second ability is for them to acquire the battle experience of the previous Ackermans via the paths. This is why Levi explains the awakening as knowing exactly what to do. This is also why Mikasa mentioned how she acquired total control of her body ever since the awakening. The fact that she knew where she had to stab the human trafficker proves she had gained the knowledge and experience of her forefathers. This is further solidified by how Mikasa would fight Armin's bullies using tact fighting techniques that are generally learned without ever having to learn them. Unfortunately, we don't explicitly know when and how Levi awakened his abilities. Some people have theorized that he had awakened his powers due to a desire to protect his dying mother, but he obviously couldn't do anything about it since his mother was dying from an illness. However, he has mentioned that both he and Kenny have felt the flow of an absurd amount of strength and power into their bodies a couple of times in their lives, which means that it may not be a one-time moment. In the case of Mikasa, we see her instinct kick off once again after the human trafficker incident, sometime after Eren's apparent death in the 5th episode. She had lost her family once, went on to lose her adopted family in Shiganshina, and lost the one person she cared about the most to a Titan. Naturally, she lost the desire to fight due to her continued loss and pain, and her heart wanted to give up. Titans neared her while she was out of gas and her blades were broken. Yet, when they were about to attack her, Mikasa's body moved on her own after we saw glimpses of her brain beat, which we now know was her instincts kicking in to make her fight against the threat. It has also been mentioned in the show by Eren himself that the ability kicks off when an Ackerman is commanded to fight, similar to how Eren had asked Mikasa to fight. It was implied that the Ackermans were predestined to follow orders and essentially not fight due to their own free will. Eren had also convinced himself that Mikasa protected him so dearly because he was the host who had commanded her to fight, making her instinctively protect him whether she wanted to or not. When she would resist, she would be subjected to unforeseen headaches. Eren goes on to use this argument against Mikasa to prove to her that she is nothing but a slave, tied to the will of her host, like every other Ackerman. Eren does not say this out of malice, however, but at the time, he wanted to hurt Armin and Mikasa to force them into standing against him since he was about to initiate global genocide and wanted them to take him down. We now know that Eren's hypothesis about how the powers are awakened isn't true because Mikasa had 3 very specific reasons as to why she protected Eren with every cell of her being. Firstly, she had lost all those she cared about, and Eren was the only family she had left, following the deaths of the others. And yes, Eren and Mikasa are not related by blood, but she did consider him to be family, as she had been adopted by the Jaegers after her parents were killed since she was a kid with no place to call home, and no guardian to guard her. Secondly, Eren's mother Carla knew that Eren's headstrong personality and desire to run after danger could throw him into troublesome situations, which, when you're fighting Titans, is basically death. Mikasa had promised Carla that she would protect Eren, and she dedicated herself to Carla's last wish. Finally, Finally, and most importantly, Mikasa loved Eren, not just as family, and not just because he had saved her, but because she was romantically in love with him. This love was strengthened by the fact that he was the only one she had. Hence, Zeke later tells Eren that Mikasa loves him so much that she's willing to snap the necks of Titans for him. But we also know that Mikasa is not super protective of Eren alone. When Armin was on the verge of death alongside Erwin, Levi, and Hanji, he initially decided to use the Titan serum to revive Erwin. However, Mikasa lost control on hearing that Armin would die as a result of that, even when there was a way that could allow Armin to keep living. For this reason, she attacked both Levi and Hanji, which led to her being punished for a short while as she had attacked her superiors. So it's safe to say that in her case, her desire to protect stems from her love for those she cares about and not from some false desire to protect a so-called host. Overall, the best way to describe the cause that unlocks these powers would be survival instinct. In fact, it is possible that when the human traffickers had attacked, Mikasa's father would have awakened his abilities if they killed her mother before killing him. However, because her father was the first to die, Mr. Ackerman did not get the chance to unlock his powers. Meanwhile, her mother was from the Asian clan and as a result was neither an Ackerman nor a subject of Ymir. If the Ackermans are connected to paths, why don't they become Titans? The story of Attack on Titan is compact and well organized. As a result, it more or less explains everything with reference to the Titans. However, mangaka Isayama has kept several truths pertaining to the Ackerman family vague, so we never exactly get to know why they don't turn into Titans, or why they're immune to mind manipulation or erasure, despite being subjects of Ymir. Let's compare the Titan power they get access to a vaccine. While getting vaccinated, a very small portion of a virus is introduced into an individual's system so that the person learns to create antibodies against it without having to suffer from the sickness. So, if they are later organically exposed to that particular virus, their body has a better chance of fighting it off because it's seen that sort of virus before. Similarly, because the Ackermans already have the power of the Titans, they cannot turn into a Titan by consuming the spinal fluid of a shifter or by having the spinal fluid of a member of the royal family injected into them, because they already have that power. If Levi had consumed the wine that had Zeke's spinal fluid, he would still not have turned into a pure Titan. Another theory could be that the Titan powers introduced to the Ackerman DNA belong to the 8 other Titan shifters and not the founder. This prevented them from becoming a Titan, as one would need the spinal fluid of a royal Titan to become a Titan in the first place. The link to the royal DNA has to be direct and not indirect in this case. If they were not subjects of Ymir, however, it is unlikely that they would have become super soldiers. But unlike the shifters, the Ackermans have a constant link to the Titan powers after their awakening. Meanwhile, shifters have to transform into Titans to get superhuman strength. In a way, it's similar to the concept of heavenly restriction from Jujutsu Kaisen, where Toji Fushiguro and Maki Zenin were born with no cursed energy despite being from the Zenin clan. Although they were ostracized by their clan and eventually discarded their ties to their family, they were never weak. What they did not acquire in cursed energy, they gained in having their physical abilities maxed out. This is why both of them were so physically strong and so physically capable. The thing that made them these super soldiers is responsible for making them immune to the Founder's manipulations. They can be telepathically communicated with via the paths, since they are connected to the paths, but their minds and memories cannot be tampered with. Who is the strongest Ackerman in the story? Can they solo a Titan army by themselves? The strongest Ackerman in Attack on Titan, and by extension, the strongest human, is Levi Ackerman. From the very beginning, he has been referred to as humanity's strongest. During the female Titan arc, where everyone was getting fodderized by Annie, we saw Levi attack her, fidget spin to slice her arm completely, and save Eren. Annie herself was shocked to see how a mere human could do this to her. I'm sure everyone remembers Levi's fight against Kenny's squad from Season 3. With the opposing team literally ambushing him, he was still able to take out his enemies and emerge victorious. During the return to Shiganshina arc, not only did he decimate the line of pure Titans around Zeke, he absolutely destroyed the Beast Titan. The one person Levi did have difficulty fighting was his own uncle, Kenny Ackerman. He had also been subdued by Mikasa when she tried to take the Titan serum away from him, hoping to use it to save Armin. So, the only time he has not destroyed his opponent with a high difference is when his opponent has been another Ackerman. Otherwise, any action sequence centered around Levi has always shown him to have an edge over his opponents by a huge margin. However, every time we see him fighting side by side with someone where the other person can keep up, it's Mikasa Ackerman. When we see him go head to head against an opponent, it's Kenny Ackerman. The way the name Ackerman is pronounced in Japanese makes it sound like Akuma. This is no coincidence, as the term Akuma translates to the devil. While the residents of Paradise are known as the Island Devils, no one embodies this title more than the Ackermans, and specifically Levi. In Season 4, Levi had kind of imprisoned Zeke in the Titan Forest so that he could take him out at any time. However, he was caught off guard as he didn't know about Zeke infusing his spinal fluid into the wine bottles that the military would drink from. As he tried to escape, he attempted to block Levi by turning his underlings into pure Titans. However, despite being surrounded by countless Titans, Levi killed every single one of them. Following this, Zeke transformed into the Beast Titan, and once again, Levi destroyed him within a few seconds. So, yes, it's safe to say that Levi solos entire Titan armies. A spoiler warning before we proceed. Everything we're going to talk about from this point forward relates to stuff that has not yet been animated. Continue watching if it's been a while since the video has been out, and Part 3 has already been released. Why is it that only an Ackerman can realistically defeat the Founding Titan? After Eren acquires the power of the Founding Titan and initiates the rumbling, he does not take away the free will of his friends, as he allows them to use their Titan powers to the best of their abilities. This allows them to understand that Eren wants them to stop because he is essentially becoming the big bad guy whom the entire world can unite against. The concept is similar to what Lelouch did in Code Geass and Sasuke's idea of revolution at the end of Naruto Shippuden. Meanwhile, Mikasa struggles with having to decide on killing Eren. She knows that she cannot kill him no matter what, but she also knows that it is something she may have to do. In fact, she may be the only one who can do. Towards the end of the Battle of Heaven and Birth, Mikasa comes to a conclusion and convinces herself that this is exactly what she has to do. The reasons behind this are rooted in two things: the core theme of the show revolving around freedom, and Mikasa's anatomy as an Ackerman. However, this has less to do with the Ackerman's strength. But let's go back by 2,000 years to understand the one who actually began this story, Ymir Fritz. She was a slave who continued to be a slave even after gaining the power of the Titans. Living in enslavement or terrible conditions in general makes you comfortable in your awful living situation. You don't know a life beyond it. This is why people from abusive families or those who have been in abusive relationships find it so hard to leave. Because Ymir had always been a slave, she does not know a life of freedom and hence goes back to serve the very king who had put a hit out on her, even though she has the power to be free. Ymir eventually falls in love with the king and gets married to him. She then aids him with expanding his kingdom with an iron fist and uses her powers to further his desires. In the end, she dies trying to save him from a rebel's attack. Her love for the king is a classic case of Stockholm Syndrome and the result of continued abuse. And yet, Ymir does desire freedom. This is why she had freed the pigs from the pig pen, which led to the king putting the hit out on her. This is also why she does not heal herself after taking the hit meant for the king, because she knows she is miserable in her life. She does not have the heart to continue living, despite having the body to do so. Because she lived for only 13 years following her acquirement of the Titan powers, future Titan shifters fell victim to the same 13-year curse. Despite her death, Ymir's twisted love for the Twisted King kept her stuck in the paths. She could not leave the place and her soul could not move on. She couldn't free herself from the unconditional love that she desperately wanted to be done with. As a result, she went on to become obedient to the descendants of the king, or rather the royal family. That is why one had to be of royal blood to use the true power of the founder. 2,000 years pass by and we get Eren Yeager, whose sole desire in his life is to be free. He wants to witness the sea with Armin because to him, the sea signifies freedom. He wants to kill the Titans beyond the walls because these Titans and these walls are what has been taking his freedom away from him. Because he is the ultimate attack Titan whose will has influenced every past wielder due to the Titan's unique ability to show future memories to the previous wielders, every attack Titan ever has moved forward. It is also the only non-founder Titan that has never fallen into the hands of the enemy. At the same time, we get Mikasa Ackerman, whose love for Eren is very different in comparison to Ymir's love for the king. In her case, the love is well reciprocated, although Eren does not explicitly acknowledge it or even show it in the first 3 seasons, barring a few instances, specifically due to him being jealous of her strength. And yet, his jealousy stems from the fact that she is stronger than him, which results in him failing to be the one protecting her. Mikasa loves Eren unconditionally, but she loves him because he taught her how to be strong by saving her from the traffickers and asking her to fight back. He is the one who gave her a new life when she believed everything was over. She's the one who gave him hope by wrapping the red scarf around her the day her parents died. Naturally, Mikasa's love for Eren motivated her to become stronger, and she wanted to continue protecting him. However, Eren believed that she only did so because he was her host. But we know that she did it due to her love, which means that she protected him due to her own free will. He was never forced to do so. Despite dedicating herself to freedom, however, Eren is not free at all. He's a slave to his desire for freedom, much like Ymir is a slave to her love for her king. During the rumbling, we see a panel of child Eren soaring above the clouds and expressing how he's now free. However, these clouds aren't clouds at all. It's the smoke generated by the colossal titans causing the rumbling. Meanwhile, Ymir oversees Eren's life and witnesses Mikasa's love for him, which is her personal choice. Ymir had protected her lover due to her enslavement, but Mikasa protects the one she loves simply because she loves him. She is the person who acknowledges how cruel the world is, but instead of succumbing to this cruelty, she also acknowledges the overwhelming amount of beauty present in the world. Because Eren is the one who has orchestrated the entire story of Attack on Titan, he's tried to wipe out Mikasa's memories from the future. The memories of an alternate reality where Mikasa had confessed her love to Eren when he has asked her about it, following which Eren gave up on his plans for the rumbling to live out his remaining years with her in a cabin far, far away. But because Mikasa is an Ackerman, she cannot have her mind altered. She's prone to getting those memories back. So Eren has to constantly wipe them from her mind, thus resulting in Mikasa's rampant headache problem. Ymir notices their bond and picks Eren and Mikasa to be the people who will free her and bring the power of the Titans to its end. Eren wishes for the same because his ultimate desire is for his friends to live long, happy lives devoid of constant war and strife, and this can only be achieved by them gaining the approval of the outside world by bringing the rumbling to an end, thus becoming heroes. And they can only live long lives if the power of the Titans ceases to exist. Ultimately, Mikasa witnesses her memories from the cabin towards the end of the final battle and manages to break into the founding Titan's mouth, after which she slices Eren by the nape that connects him to his Titan. At the same time, we see Ymir Fritz standing over them, smiling at them as Mikasa kisses Eren's head, which coincides with a point in their cabin memories where Eren and Mikasa hug each other and kiss. And this ability to choose freely is what sets Mikasa and Ymir apart. While Ymir was unable to let go of the love she did not want to keep, Mikasa had to let go of the love she spent her life trying to keep in order to save the world. She made the decision Ymir could not. The Ackermans, in essence, were always free. That's why they were immune to the Founder's mind alteration powers, and they were also the ones who had rejected the monarchies and Karl Fritz's ideals. It was necessary for Mikasa to regain the memories from the cabin back so that she could understand why she had to take Eren's life. If it was anyone else, the person would have simply never gotten those memories back. Being an Ackerman, Mikasa was free enough to get those memories, for which Eren had to constantly wipe her mind, and yet she would always see visions every time she had a headache, which meant that her anatomy was resisting her freedom being taken away. Ultimately, Mikasa chose the freedom Eren was trying to give her and the others, instead of holding on to the curse of the Titans. Marvelous verdict! The Ackermans are directly responsible for humanity within the walls not getting thwarted by the Titans. Their strength has given the people they fight for, and the watchers of the show, hope. As desperate and hopeless as things were made to be, watching the Ackermans fight made us feel that maybe humanity did have a chance. Mikasa being the only one whose decision would finally break the curse is also a big reason why the Ackerman clan is pivotal to the AOT verse. Although we can't attribute the entire thing to her anatomy, because it was her free will to love Eren as well as to save the world that caused her actions, the end goal would have been impossible to reach had she not been anatomically destined to resist her freedom being taken away. But what are your thoughts on this? Do you think the Ackermans are the ones who have always been free? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section down below, and in the meantime, thanks for watching, stay safe out there, and have a marvelous day.